All right, so I'd like to call to order the work session of the August 5, 2025 Lower South County Board of Supervisors. Ask everyone to join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. That brings us to our public comment agenda item. Sorry, any motion will be recognized. Seeing none, we'll move on to, do we want to?
Yes. Jamie, Supervisors here from PFM, give us an update on future finance.
You guys want me to go in front of here so it sounds better?
This is the mic that picks it up.
Oh, okay, even better.
Not in front of that.
All right.
Perfect.
Well, thanks for having me. Thanks for moving me up as always. I've never seen Andy in real life, so it's good to see him. He's a real person. So thanks for having me. So obviously, anytime I come here, there's usually some form of thought process on what makes sense to work through, planning for your capital needs. I know you've had many conversations over the years, and there's always something going on. And obviously, with regard to your public works buildings and other community centers and other things that you're considering, we want to make sure we're taking advantage of all the different ways we could do things to both allow us to get some funds in hand, take advantage of tax rules that are for this type of structuring. As we've talked about in the past, there's ways of doing things that just make it a little more economically advantaged when you have things that are going to come. Always what's important with anything that we talk about is reasonable expectations to spend the money within a certain period of time. And considering the amount of conversations we had, I can say that more than likely we have a very strong reasonable expectation that you're probably going to move forward with some form of a building project, whether you speed up one versus the other, or you're acquire property this or do that, whatever it may be that you may be considering doing tied to a building. You don't necessarily have to have the final plans in place, but what you want to do is have the ability to know you're going to spend it within 3 years. And that's always important. Any engineer you talk to or architect you talk to, when they build their plans, amazingly, the buildings are done within 3 years. Just because, the process takes what it takes, and usually it just fits very, very well with what we're trying to accomplish. So this is not an abnormal way, what I'm going to show you, which is a multi-step financing plan. We do this a fair amount with our school clients, very similar to what we do for them. They borrow usually in the $15 million range. If they have a spread out projects, they're around $50 million. With local governments, the numbers that usually matter are either 5 million or 10 million. Those are the kind of two numbers that have been historically the valuable numbers to borrow. When I was here about a year and a half ago, although we did a separate transaction, as you guys know, with the grants, that $5 million concept, that small issuer exemption, was the hot thing that we were doing with clients, because there was a value in borrowing at a interest rate where you were earning above what you were paying. And that's kind of moved a little closer to each other. So I don't think that has as much value this year. And considering, I think, with the cost of the building projects that you're considering, I think a 10-10-10 method is probably the right way to do it. It doesn't necessarily have to be 10-10-10. It could be 10, 20, or 10-15-5 or something like that. It all depends on what your final kind of costs are going to be for buildings. But I just want to show you an idea of, if you needed $30 million for buildings, here's what it would look like. Here's what your payments would be, with the one caveat that this all assumes that we receive one nickel of grants, which you're going to be getting from the grant loan we did. So when we finally start to put the money toward that loan, the final amortization will be adjusted. But until then, we have to show you this way, which is the worst case scenario. Okay, so that's the big caveat here. So as always, that first page is usually a nice short topics discussion, mostly tied to I say page 1, it's really page 2 in this case, or page 3. The first couple of pages are interest rates and other things, but this just shows you the federal tax laws. The concept of bank qualification is that word I always use, which is if you borrow $10 million or less in a calendar year, that gives you a special exemption for the investors of your debt to write off all of the interest that they receive, one. And what they do is they pass on that benefit to you. Essentially, you save between 5 and 20 basis points. That's great. You know, that saves you money, of course, over time. But the second and more important piece is your call provision, your optionality gets reduced. In Pennsylvania, we can do 5-year call provisions. And that is very common for investors to see that. If we had a $10 million, $5,000 loan or bond issue, your call provision would be 8 years, maybe up to 10. So that extra 3 years gives you a lot of value, right? So that's why we want to take advantage of that. The last 2 bullets are really just, you know, hey, if you're going to start spending money, we would consider doing a reimbursement resolution, which is very common, to reimburse yourselves just on the funds you've spent. And then, as always, anytime we do any debt issuance, we always suggest that you do a parameters ordinance, which essentially provides the full flexibility of the finance team to move at a pace that makes sense, whether it's the timing of the transaction, but there's no other future requirements needed by the township once we do that. So really the next 2 pages are again just highlighting where we are. So technically this is page 4. This is your current debt portfolio. You know, the great news about what you guys have outstanding is you have really relatively short-term debt, which allows us to do those wrap structures, which gives us, you know, a nice, you know, reasonable increment when you're borrowing money. You have a $10 million outstanding principal balance. So, you know, even that first transaction will essentially double your debt, right? But you will notice when we add a $10 million issue, although your annual payments are, you know, $1.5 million, you're going to notice it's not a large increment in the grand scheme of things because of how the wrap would work.
So we're clear on this too, the general obligation note series 2024 is the money we borrowed for the grants.
Yes.
So the expectation is most of that is being repaid when we get the grant money.
That's exactly right.
That's bridge funding.
Correct.
So really from our standpoint, well, we have to recognize.
You have to show for state purposes.
100%.
Yep.
From a decision-making standpoint, really the general obligation note series B of 2021.
He's not really there.
And the golf course portion are what is our long-term outstanding debt that basically by 12/31/2028 is going up.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, it depends how much you guys get. You're right. I said 10 million because I was taking into account you're going to get a significant amount of grant funds back. So when you really add columns 4 and column 8, I'm sorry, that's 10 million. So you knock out most of that. It's pretty significant now. Okay. So the other good news is your interest rates are low. You have very short-term debt. You have very short yields, which makes your rates significantly lower. And so not much we can do about it to save you any money. The good news is you're pretty much near historic lows on almost your debt. So really, the last page again is very similar in concepts what I've shown past, except for I'm just now picking different colors and having it go out multiple years. So my suggestion here is, we've got, if you're talking about up to $30 million again, we can decide that later. But if that's the range that you're talking about for various buildings, here's what I think you should do is we would do wrap structures around your existing debt, have it go out about 20 years because that is, good useful life of the buildings you're in. It kind of allows you to fill in the gaps to add new pieces each year. And when you look at your budgeted payment, not taking into account any of the grants, so, maybe your first year, we can do something where it's not as big of an impact in 26. This is just a concept here, but you're essentially, incrementally adding about $500,000 each time you borrow $10 million. That's probably the best way to think about it. So that's, from your budgetary, impact, what's the value of a mill? That's what you really need each time you do that. So $500,000 for every 10 million you do.
So I'm gonna do simple math.
Sure.
Not that really.
No, it's 7:30 in the morning, so.
Presuming for the general obligation note of 2024, we borrowed that of the guys that were getting most of that repaid.
Yep.
We off the table. The current debt we have off the table by late 28. Okay. So with the current $1.5 million in debt service that we've had, once we're past 28, all right, that would cover close to the $30 million worth of indebtedness that you're talking about, if you're saying it's $500,000 per $10 million of indebtedness.
You're already budgeting the 1.5 million.
Agreed.
Right, so it's gonna, the run rate would get to 3.1 if you didn't pay off any of the grant funds.
So I understood,
Yeah.
but,
You're right,
I'm taking
you're
that-
getting there, and
Because
yes,
that was the decision we had, and that was sort of why we had borrowed that one.
yes.
I'm just trying to figure out from a budgetary impact,
What's it really gonna look like?
what's it gonna look like long term? Yeah, I'm not saying that we'll be able to do it 100% with our, in our current budget allocation.
You're gonna get
But
close,
so this shows like doubling it.
but in real life, it's not gonna
Not doing
happen.
that either.
Yeah.
So,
It's not gonna happen. Again,
right,
the state needs to see it this way. I need to show it to you this way.
Yeah.
Because we've seen things happen that you're,
sure, and we have to be mindful of that,
Yes.
so we can't, don't count
Yes.
chickens, but at least from a planning standpoint, not a budgeting standpoint
Yep.
at this point, that's sort of the thought process within that
yeah, in
$30
my,
million number.
yeah, in my opinion, you can not say slowly, but strategically plan for the increment if necessary versus having to hit everybody at once if that was the way to go. So I think that's why this makes sense. When you break these out over a longer period of time, again, very similar to what schools do, is because when you have large capital needs, they have a different index. They have to, it's called Act One, which they can't raise above a certain, or you guys can go as high as you want to a certain extent. Not that you're gonna do that, but
I don't know if I'm gonna keep this.
yeah, exactly. What you wanna do is you wanna take your time to figure out what the right number is. You guys are gonna go through the budget process in the next couple months. And then you can use some of these numbers as a guide and, I've heard RACB's been taking forever, there's just grants that take a while. So rather you guys be prepared on the conservative side here. And we can do some things to kind of mitigate some of the impacts while you're waiting for those grants. And it may not be as large of an impact, even close to this when we get there. Okay. I don't have anything else magic to talk about from the number standpoint. I would only show you what a timeline would be.
Where are interest rates going?
Well, good news, bad news. We had not a great job report. We're probably well aware of that situation. That actually lowered rates on the treasury side by about 0.30%. Bond rates fell too, and by about 6 or 7 basis points. The ratios don't always work exactly the same, but I've done some high credit transactions recently, some pretty large ones for a couple townships. And I did a 25-year issue with a AAA at a 4.02%. So I think you guys are a step below that, but not that much farther. And we're talking about a shorter amortization. So, if we can find our way into the 420s, I think that's a pretty fair rate for a long-term instrument these days.
Sure.
So, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about the market in general. We have, there was a couple bumps in the road the last, year-ish, just for things that we can't control. But generally speaking, the market's been really resilient. There was a lot of, conversations about tax changes and things like that. All those things kind of went the right direction. My only thought is you've got a ton of grants coming. I would not anticipate as many as you would get in the future just because of what our expectations are. So, plan accordingly, but take advantage of what you can get. So, just from a timing perspective, it always works this way. If you say, hey, this sounds like a good idea, let's kind of get things moving. It makes sense for you to lock something in and be settled before December 31st. This is a timeline here that I show that kind of gets you funds before November, sometime in November. So a lot of the information that we can do, we work together with Joe and staff. We would have some ordinances, we do a rating call, we'll talk to them not too long ago, I don't think. You guys are in a strong position. And we could be prepared to price bonds in October, if we really moved. But I think it's really for you guys to think about. 1, 2, it's a long-term plan concept. It's not I know exactly which screw I'm gonna buy for the building today, but if you have a good concept that you're gonna be doing things, this is the way to do it.
Okay. Good.
So I'm walking away from this. The day you want to do it, the day we get money, 4 months.
90 days.
Oh,
I was giving you some time.
Yeah. 4 months in
Yeah.
the time frame, and $10 million is $500,000 annual debt service.
Yep.
So,
There's a high number.
From a timing perspective with the buildings. This is $10 million per year, so if we push everything out a year, if we didn't do it by the end of this year. Am I correct?
Well,
If we're doing like a 3, 10, 10, 10.
You have, so the good news is each transaction has its own reasonable expectation
Right.
spend, but clearly, you know, that first. You want to spend on within the next 3 years.
Right.
So again,
but if we. But I'm not sure I'm ready to go do this year with where we are in plans, but say by. You know, February, March of next year, we are,
Right,
that would put us at 26 year, and then we'd be able to do it again at, you know, call it June of 27 and June of 20.
right. I was
it's a calendar year reset.
Correct, so.
Right, that's my point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not an annual year reset, it's a calendar year reset, so you don't have to wait till the end of the year.
It's,
It's 12 months from when you did.
no,
it's-
it's.
But that still works.
December 31st
I
is
still have to wait till December 31st to get the money. As long as I do it within a calendar year, I can then do it again in the next calendar year.
Correct.
Correct.
Fine.
It just resets on the
Yeah.
31st of every year.
Right.
I'm here today to say, if you want to use this year's,
Right.
Right,
yeah, this is this year's plan, if you want to go this year.
But we only missing 6 months worth.
Correct.
It is June next year.
correct.
Exactly right. It's just what you're trying to take advantage of.
Yeah, I'm gonna take it with this honestly, you know, check it out, that, like you said, we're in a good position, having 6 to 10 years, you know, we want to go longer.
Yeah, we can shorten up if you wanted. I just think, you know, the increments is what matters to you, and these are buildings.
So that's what I'm saying, I'm gonna
Yeah.
check this out, I'm very good.
This is very good stuff.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for coming out, Shane.
Thank
If nothing else, you guys be in.
Yeah, it's great. I've been on so many Zoom calls.
Yeah, that's the key. I mean, it's just a win-win. Thanks, everybody.
James.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie.
All right, with that, then we will circle back to Public Works Director, Mr. Jones.
Good morning, thank you. Just an update on some projects, Bergie Mill Road Bridge Project, H&K still working on the West Bridge abutment. Looks like they're, almost complete with that, so. The abutment, the center piers are just about completed. I don't have any other details on the schedule other than they're apparently still on schedule for completion this year. So. Public Works and Community Center projects, working with Boyle on the cost estimates. Staff met with Liz Bile of Encore, now Sparks Senior Center, on their funding sources and talked about some options for a new space for them. So Liz was very understanding of the situation that we're in and is willing to do whatever she needs to do to try to secure some additional funding. We suggested that she reach out to they gave us a breakdown of where their clients come from, what municipalities, and we suggested that they reach out to those other municipalities to see if there's funding available to support their efforts. So.
About a third. Or who use the senior center, I don't know what's up.
Okay. And is there another critical mass coming from anywhere otherwise, or is it pretty spread out?
I think,
It's Telmenson.
Number 2.
What was surprising is like the Franconia area was very low.
They have generations that don't think over in the middle of South.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
But
come
the-
from Hatfield, Montgomery Township, I mean, it's a.
Yeah, they have a
wide
pretty-
area,
Pretty wide reach.
more than you would expect.
Are there other programs, but for example, like Generations, do they receive funding from other places as well, similarly to the library? Should we?
I
or that we know.
don't know. But I think she said about 40% of their funding comes from the county. They get another 10 to 15% in grant funds, and then the rest is contributions or, monies that they make from programs or lunch and those kinds of things. So,
Yeah.
The church, yeah. So,
yeah, so they were, Liz was, amenable to, different ideas, thinking outside the box and coming up with a solution that was beneficial for everyone.
Less expensive.
That too. So we're still working with trying to get a grant services company in place. So still working on that. The Main Street sidewalk project, construction's underway. The signs have been relocated for Dracus and for Kemp. The Smile Realty or Weaver Reckner sign was removed as they're working with the sign company on installing a brand new sign. Apparently they were doing some rebranding, so they were looking at a new sign anyway, so. Yeah. So Marino's currently working on the utility relocations at the Weaver Reckner property and working on the Pheasant Run portion of the trail. The Cape Seal resurfacing, all that work was completed. No issues that I'm aware of. Nova chip process for Morris Road from 113 to Quarry Road. All the base repair work has been completed. We installed a drainage system in front of 248 Morris to correct a potential icing problem. There was water that was bleeding across the road where the curb's super elevated, so we're catching the vast majority of it. We're going to try to reprofile the road a little bit to make sure that the water stays on along the shoulder and gets where it needs to be instead of creating an issue. AMS is scheduled tentatively for the end of next week to pave, and that will be a 2-day project. The grant work, the Arley bike lane grants, all the striping work on Yoder, Maple, Culp, Sturgis, Moccasin, and Yukon roads has been completed. My team is currently installing all the signage as part of the project, so the only thing that's remaining is the Indian Creek Road, the raised pavement markers and the striping for that. Green Lake Go grants, the signal upgrades for Main and Maple, Main and Huntsberger, working on the easements. I think there's an easement agreement on your agenda for tomorrow night. And that is for Main and Maple. Still working on the easements for Main and Huntsberger. Department activities. Mentioned the Morris Road prep work that we've been doing. A lot of time spent on Dan Roth Park and upgrades. New light pole foundations were installed, and the lights that we got from Mr. Sheeran, they were installed. So we added additional parking lot light to provide just some security lighting for the parking lot, and then replaced all the lights. Other than there's 2 lights, there's one by the pavilion and there's one by the shuffleboard court that haven't been replaced or removed. We're still trying to figure out if they're even going to be around. The pavilion's not in the greatest shape, so we're talking about with the park board about, what do we do with that long term? Now that there may be a use for the nationwide site, who knows if there's a resurgence in the use of that pavilion, but so we're looking at that. But all the other lights around the path have been replaced and the old ones removed. Conduit's been run. Wiring is going to get done this week. So we'll have lights around the path. We're working on doing prep work on the path so that the path gets repaved. That's scheduled for next week. So the only remaining item would be the parking lot paving and restriping. So
It's very good.
the only other thing is Grace is going to talk about the Main Street Matters grant program.
Sure.
Just like in year or two ago, we talked about ornamental lighting for Main Street. This Main Street Matters grant program opened up, I don't know, a month or so ago.
Right.
So staff has looked at that as a possible venue for funding.
So we talked to the lighting engineer at Bowman who helped us come up with this estimate. I think you should all have it in front of you. The max project is $1 million, but it is a 50% match. So the amount that John from Bowman drew up was in the $650,000 range, which would provide ornamental lighting from Maple to Hunsberger. With the idea kind of that if the construction bids come in lower, that we could possibly further extend the project. And currently on Maple, there are those existing overhead lights on the utility poles, so we would supplement these ornamental lightings with those, so approximately 2 or 3 between each of those, likely on the other side of the road, for a total of 30 new lights, so.
So they will be on the side of the road, with the sidewalk?
Correct.
Okay. And would it go in the sidewalk, behind the sidewalk? The sidewalk's up against the curb a lot.
Yes.
It is.
Yeah, this drawing, this estimate kind of just came up, so I'm still working with.
Yeah, the details of it, and the reasoning is because this grant application, doesn't have an immediate deadline, but the details of placement haven't been worked out. We just, Bowman just looked at the stretch from Huntsburg to Maple and said, okay, based on what's out there already with the Cobra lights, we'd expect that you'd want to put in about 30.
Right.
Of these lamps on that stretch, where the placement is, it hasn't.
Are there any examples of what it would look like? What kind of design?
I think we were using,
We were referencing the lighting that's currently at Mainland Point, that development.
the
If-
interior roads. Black, I don't know, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, that's just something that as a reference, but.
Same thing.
Yeah, it all would be like something like either Lansdale or Southern has one main, the main core is nice black poles and.
Yeah.
If you wanna hang banners from it, you wanna do any of that sort of stuff, yeah.
Right.
Christmas toy. Yeah, something that, good shop there.
Yeah.
Yeah, see these, okay, so these light fixtures, poles are devoid of attachments.
Yeah.
So you can't hang flowers, you can't hang banners. So my preference would be along Main Street, if we're gonna go this route, is to be forward thinking in that regard.
Yes.
And ultimately, where would we want it to extend, right? The signal at Walmart all the way through to or, we're gonna do the corridor, so, right?
Right.
And that's,
Yes, this is the first.
this would be phase 1.
And if we get a standard light fixture, people come in with anything else along that border, that's what they end up installing it, from that standpoint.
Right.
Doesn't all have to be done, okay?
This was just, that we had these in the office.
Yeah.
They said, one of those. To use it as an example, to get a number.
Yeah, they need to do these standard
Correct.
light fixture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
And we also should need to make sure that they're able to be incorporated into our lighting management system.
Right.
I'll get it to it. And the last piece of that will be, in the future, both sides of the street. I think my opinion is gonna be that installation, implementation of the first project might well be easier on the side of the street without the sidewalk. Only that there's room to go to the area, but I leave it to the professional.
But the first step would be tomorrow night to approve this application, to start.
Okay. Yeah, we'll, great.
Yeah.
That's hopefully if anybody's watching, they can give some feedback as well. Great.
Thanks, Grace. Very well.
That's all that I have.
Okay, I got 4 more light poles coming. And,
Okay.
I just, one comment I wanted to make on Upper Mainland, going from Kinsey down towards Quarry, at the bend. A year or so ago, a tree has fallen as you're going down the hill to the light,
Yep.
right? Fell and took out like one of the arrows, caution arrows.
The chevrons,
Yeah, so.
I've called PennDOT multiple times already.
Right.
You got it leading, that's the diagram?
Yeah, they keep copies of it.
You can go about
It's all okay. I knew you were on top of it, what the status was.
I don't know what the status is, unfortunately.
Just a few things too, I mean, one might be the same answer, I noticed Rex and Castle's pole is down again, actually, it looked like the under department was almost out of the ground.
The guide rail.
Guide rail, yeah.
Oh.
Guide rail, I was just curious if we've heard.
Well,
Sort of things.
No, I wasn't aware of that, but I will follow up with PennDOT since we installed the striping to try to keep,
Might just be easier for them to leave it damaged.
I think that is the normal condition.
well, yeah, it is.
Didn't fix.
I'm surprised if I go by and it's actually
Yeah.
straight.
Could be unicorn day.
Hey,
Doesn't last long.
I'll get a picture.
You only
I get 2 or 3 days and then fix.
And then I'll take a picture when it's fixed, so we can see what it's supposed to.
And the only other thing I just want to say is that great job on the duck pond. I saw the crew out there when they talked a little bit too, but just, I've been watching it progress, walk by there and it looks great.
Yeah, it's taken a while and kind of filling kind of work when we've had other things, that have gaps in our schedule, but yeah, I think it's gonna be really nice. And we're also making provisions that with the electrical that at some point, maybe we install a fountain in the pond.
Nice.
I think that would be a nice feature.
And, it's not just looking great, but even I go down Maple often. Speak to lots of people over there. I see a lot more people than I have seen.
There are a lot of people fishing. It's amazing. So there were people there fishing yesterday.
Algae too, the algae.
I'm sorry?
The algae in areas.
It's weird, this year that pond has not had any issues with algae. We continually battle at Briarwick with algae and a couple of the other small ponds. I'm talking with a pond management company. Because right now, the way we handle the algae is just whenever it blooms, we contact our spraying company or weed management company and they come out and they spray. So it's more reactionary than being proactive. So I found this company that they manage ponds and they apparently have a whole line of products that can deal with, the muck layer that's on the bottom of the pond that really contributes to the algae growth. So, I've got a meeting scheduled with them to try and come up with a more comprehensive plan for our ponds rather than just, there's algae blooming, let's spray it, kind of a thing, so. Cause we looked at installing fountains or bubblers or aerators at Briarwick, but A, there's no power. You're 12 or 1,300 feet away from the road.
Yeah.
And all the
We
fish.
looked at solar, not 100% sold on solar for long-term viability. But so before we go and spend all this money and then realize that it's not gonna do exactly what we wanted to do, I wanted to bring somebody in at least to get some professional help, professional opinion and some advice on how we should move forward. So that's where we are with those. You're welcome.
Anything else for Mr. Jones? Moving on, Chief Medwood.
Yes, sir. Previous meetings, there's been suggestion, I believe from Ken, about one of the Paulinsville markets joining forces with the fire company open house. So it came up as a discussion and their staff met with my staff and to at least Maestro, they used the word road closure, which usually gives me agita. And, we finally got the Halloween parade off of Main Street, so, but this appears to be minor, but this is their draft. Obviously would need your consensus approval on this. Fire police, it would be Sunday, October 5th. I believe the fire company used to do their open house on Sundays, moved them to Saturdays. The market's on Sunday, so they're going to shift it for just that occasion. But it also puts a strain on fire police on a Sunday morning. So that is being discussed as we speak. But this is their plan. The red markings are fire police postings. The yellows are public works, heavy trucks for hard closures, mobile hard closures. And it would, but the purple area is where vendors would set up on the highway. So from the community center to would be kind of a takeover for the day
School and Cole, we got vendors set up.
on the highway. Food trucks, you see the community avenue would be controlled to get from the parking, the community center to the event. This minimizes the residents that would be impacted on school. I think we have two. And we ask for mobile hard closures if those residents need to get in or out. And still have.
School be open from Maple to Community Avenue?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the circulation.
We got the soft closure at school and community. But the truck would be farther down just to allow people to get into businesses or it's a Sunday morning. The event would be 11 to 2, but with setup and breakdown, we're looking at possibly 9 to 4.
I know, going to you at house, which we always attend, I can't drive there anyway, so that's, that time thing is okay with me.
So we would be, Maple's not that far to get people around it.
I think it's great.
I think it's gonna bring.
Perfect is what we were shooting for.
As always.
Once in a while.
It's probably better than what we've done since we thought with that, because, school in Colbert is going that day, or like, it's dicey, yeah.
A park away,
Yeah.
So
So I think it's great.
and having those, mobile, that, I've seen them one side for me, they work very well. It's something to get away.
It's sidewalk, Dark Avenue, activity. Cooper Park. Don't start thinking about that. It would be so great.
No, they.
Yeah, it's been thanks to everybody working together on this too. That's great for those two community events together as well. Yeah, that'll give us that.
It'll pour. So much for perfect. Well, having said that, there's no chance of being. That's all I got.
Anything else with our chief?
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks.
You got it.
All right, moving on, building and zoning director, Mr. Butte.
Mr. Chairman. So far, we have, no, actually, the total for July, the permits that were issued are 75. We do not have a zoning hearing board application for August, even though we continue to anticipate at least several. So there are a couple of requests that I wanted to go through this morning with the board. That's 29 Mainland Road waiver request and 221 Main Street, which is Burger King architectural plans. So just real quickly for the Burger King architectural plans, this is in line with what has been done with the rest of Mainland Point, the retail strip, the residential, the apartments. Wawa and Taco Bell all had a declaration of covenants, restrictions that were recorded with those buildings. And the board has reviewed the architecturals as part of that agreement. And so this is just that review of the architectural plan for that. 29 Mainland Road, Richard Costa, him architect in the village of Mainland. That's construction as part of the Creekside and Mainland as receptacle facility that is to be installed at the corner of a parking lot on his property. And he said that the size of the receptacles are not necessarily the normal real big dumpster size. They are reduced size, and it's not necessary to have a 6-foot high barrier around those facilities. It's actually going to look better and be just as effective to have a 5-foot high barrier. I issued a memo regarding this, indicating what section of the saldo the board of supervisors have the capacity to grant waivers for this. And from Rich's perspective, it's a simple waiver. It's just the reduction of the barrier and 1-foot reduction.
Do you have diagram of that?
I should.
So they can see.
So this is the office, this is Creekside of Mainland. What's colored here now, and then down on this bottom portion it's the lion's share, it's where the old Mainland Inn is, that's where all the other apartments are constructed. And this is just Rich's section of it. And this up here in the corner of the parking lot is where the trash enclosure is approved to be. This is an enlargement of that area. Like I was mentioning before, he says they are smaller than your typical dumpster size. These are only 2 yards a piece. Here is an elevation, what it will look like. He dashed this in so you can see what the receptacles are on the inside. Really not much more to present.
Just like the site plan moment, like, so there is landscaping along this property perimeter to the adjacent property there. It's really the only impact we do, whomever the property owner is to the left of it.
How about the guy in unit 1 there? Are the windows looking down into that and there's the block we care?
It's his tenant,
Well, that's true too.
and that's their trash receptacle on their property,
Right,
right, tenant, so I'm sort of liberty to be adjacent.
Right, right, thanks for the.
The question I have, Mike, for something, some similar, just for consideration. Is there any safety reasons or any other reason we have it at 6 foot as opposed to 5? Is it,
Something that I can think of.
is it just because it would typically be higher than those reciprocals?
I think larger, some people are generally
That's what I
taller,
think.
so it's trying to keep it under that.
Like 5 foot.
Five,
Yeah.
That's what people like most of them, most of them will be a little higher, and that's why we have it, but I'm guessing it's high. The only other thing too, I guess, with the environmental, the.
Well, I'm saying,
Well,
but
make sure it's not open on the little floor, that has, yeah.
I don't think that.
I think they all have colors.
Yeah, it goes up.
Yeah, that's sort of
Right.
But really, that was my question, just not safety.
The only thing I'm saying is within that, could we write some sort of restriction that you can't switch down to a larger dumpster? You know, because that would be above the fence, you know, if we grant the waiver for a 5-foot fence, it doesn't put a 6-foot high dumpster in, you know.
Yeah, you can attach any conditions.
I think it's great. But if it's saying, if it's saying,
Later, something.
If he sells the property, someone else.
Yeah.
And someone else.
Exactly.
The waiver is just subject to it meeting these conditions.
Right, right.
And if he does change the dumpster style, we might have to put a new fence in to reflect that.
Right.
So. And there might be future consideration, amending this out. But include, because today, this was written, I'm sure, 30, 40 years ago. And it needs to go up.
Yeah, I think that requirement is an opaque screening, and it has both the fence and then the, and plantings, and it just might need some flexibility in it. Because but the purpose is good, which is you wanna have a closure that can't be seen by everybody, then it has to have some.
But I like the way that he did present it to us in that fact, and the fact is that we can have supervisor assurance, especially if we're sure this way. Yeah, I'm. Instead, easy for members.
Actually, for tomorrow night.
Yes, it's for tomorrow night. Yeah, I wanted to bring it to you without the applicant here, just so you could speak more freely, you know, public. I would speak. All right, so.
However, there was a comment that Matt was earlier at 7:30.
So here are the architecturals for Burger King.
Yep. It's the Burger King.
The Burger King.
Is the signage appropriate?
I have not reviewed the signage, but I have been in contact with Burger King.
I just want to make it clear, any review that this has does not approve any signage.
That's
correct. Building.
Yeah, we try to make that as perfectly clear to the applicant every time they submit something like this, that includes signage.
Or even on the front, doesn't mean sign was just not there.
Right.
Yes.
Looks like the Chase Bank.
I like this roof.
True. Alright.
Okay,
Sure.
I didn't see, Howard Eskin's, picture on it though. And he usually on the front.
so a couple other items that you will see in tomorrow's meeting is the request for waiver land development for 417 Main Street, that's Isabel's Kitchen. And the preliminary final land development plan for 10 Schoolhouse Road, that's SBE of the schoolhouse and Longpole. And that's all I have for you.
So good. Question for, all right, moving right along, Mr. Duquette.
Mr. Chairman, first item on the manager's report is a review of the minutes, July 2nd, 2025. Any corrections or changes? Yeah. The last paragraph on the final page. That, and on the agenda for tomorrow evening, under unfinished business, the approval to execute the traffic signal installation and maintenance easement agreement for Maple and Main with Maple and Main LLC 504 Main Street. This is for the upgrade to the traffic signals, which the town should receive the, does it green light go? Right?
Like, yes.
Next item is 29 Mainland Road waiver request, which we just discussed. The next item is resolution 2025-10 Schoolhouse Road preliminary final land development approval. Next item is resolution 2025-19 417 Main Street Isabel's Kitchen waiver of land development request approval. Under new business, resolution 2025-20 establishing procedures for reviewing open space property interests for acquisition by the township, which we discussed last month. Next item is motion to adopt the recommendation of the planning commission for the 2025 revised open space map. I think everyone has a copy and has had a chance to review that previously. The next item is resolution 2025-21 approving the junior supervisor program, which we'll discuss in a moment. Resolution 2025-22 approving the application to DCED's Main Street Matters Grant Program for the street, ornamental street lighting. Next item is 2021 Main Street Burger King architectural plans, name of point. Next item is motion to approve and execute the 2025-26 consortium heating oil bid contract. And finally, the motion to approve updated Freedom Valley Medical Rescue bylaw, which Mr. Freeman could give you a brief update now, if you'd like.
Sure. If you recall, several months ago, there was an agreement approved with the Freedom Valley and Limerick. And as part of that agreement, there was a provision that indicated that they were to amend their bylaws. And those amended bylaws were subject to the approval of both Limerick and Lower Suffolk Township. They've gone through that exercise. They've shared them with our office and Limerick Township Solicitor's Office. We provided some comments back and forth. We think they're in good shape at this point and ready for this board's consideration.
No major change.
No major change. It was really just an update, specifically to reference the agreement that we had reached several months ago. But that's about it. Yeah, they didn't even do a wholesale rewrite, just a few little updates here and there. Yes.
Thank you. Finally, under the manager's report is the junior supervisor program we've been discussing for a couple of months now. So before you, there is an announcement which will go out to the high school for juniors and seniors who are residents of Lower Suffolk Township. The next thing on the list is a program outline and what's required as far as the application, and then a copy of the application itself. This follows Middleton Township, program. Been in place now for about 10-15 years, I think, somewhere close to that. We also used some information we got from the Boroughs Association, which has a similar program, Boroughs. And took the information off their website. So unless you have any questions, concerns, changes,
I think it looks good. A couple of things I just noticed, or one thing I noticed is there, maybe we should specify how they can submit, whether they do electronically, by mail, in person. Well, I know it says your email, I think people will be proactive to take that.
right?
But I noticed, you know, I don't know if somebody felt they might have to drop it off, but
Oh, we can add that to the
um,
announcement, and they can also do add it to the application itself.
but I am very excited about this program. I again, when I got the email, I didn't even know that they existed. Like I said, you know, second class township authorities, I think there were the boroughs, little boroughs have them. But one thing I did notice is there are no other townships around us that have a junior supervisor program.
Right.
We found that one, it's the closest one that it's closer, similar to Florida. The only other thing two jobs I'm saying is, let's say we added one extra possibility to, correct? Two openings we had.
Yes, I think it says the board has the discretion, I think.
So we can talk a little bit about whether we want one or two. But
And then we look at the application, the question, yeah,
Right.
It does say term may appoint junior township supervisors.
Right, yes.
So, yeah.
well, that's what they
The other thing I would ask Joe too is, because of the way it's written, you know, I don't know how far afield we have to go for advertising on our website. But with the, you know, posted on the website, then maybe also send it to North Monco and to the charter school, just so that it hits all three, at least for the local one, because there are certain kids that spend all their time at North Monco that are out of salary.
and it's not just health to Savage as well, specifically mentions from schools. So.
Well, that's what,
Right, but we hope it gets out to those.
There's other ones
as well.
But there are some that we can hit.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
And we can put it on all of our.
Newsletter,
Newsletter, newsletter,
I think it works. I think it's wonderful.
Good program.
and that is all I have under the manager's report.
Questions for, Kowski? Do we have needs, each one for executive session
You do,
in the matter of
real estate,
And
without
personnel.
intent to return?
without the intent.
And personnel.
And personnel,
And
please.
real estate first time was pointed out. All right, so with that, if there's no other questions or comments, you can turn this.
Motion.
Okay. Move the second, and all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
It's pretty useful. Wrap it up.